All right, let's go ahead and start going through our questions for Domain 2, Foundational Skills. Here we go. A second grade teacher is preparing for a parent conference and would like to bring up the students' diagnostic assessment results on sight word recognition. The student has passed 50% of the grade level sight word list, but should have passed 75%. The teacher has heard the students say they don't like practicing sight word flashcards at home. What should the teacher recommend to the parents? A, skipping ahead to the next grade level list to boost engagement. B, having the students stop practicing at home if their proficiency score is on a frustration level. C, offer a wide assortment of engaging materials for new options when practicing. D, having the student participate in a summative assessment to test the reliability of the data. Here's our answer. C, offer a wide assortment of engaging materials for new options when practicing. Let's talk about why. So we have here in the question that the student is behind on sight word recognition. They're at 50%, they should be at 75%. And they don't like practicing flashcards at home. So that tells me that when the student is practicing at home, they're just rotely going through flashcards. Very low engagement with that. So we would not go ahead and skip to the next grade level list to boost engagement. They need to have those foundational skills. Proficiency on frustration level. That has to do with reading text. So we would not have them stop practicing. Have a student participate in summative assessment for the reliability of the data. No, we're going to offer a wide assortment of engaging materials for new options when practicing. So we wouldn't necessarily stop and do a summative assessment. We have given an assessment. They're at 50%. They should be at 75%. Flashcards has super low engagement, so we would offer to the parents a wide assortment of engaging materials and ideas for new options when practicing at home to boost engagement. So there you go, C. Alphabet knowledge is most effectively taught, A, in rote memorization, B, by learning the ABC song, C, explicitly in context, or D, within sight word fluency activities. Here's the answer. Explicitly in context. So alphabet knowledge by rote memorization would be similar to the ABC song. It's just what it sounds like, just memorization. But we want them to be able to understand it in context because the goal is for them to be able to use their alphabet knowledge and apply it to a text. Sight word fluency activities is also just memorization of sight words. So we want to make sure that they are taught alphabetic knowledge in context. That's the important part there. Songs, chants, tongue twisters, and collaborative play all help increase A, motor skills, B, oral language, C, listening comprehension, or D, concepts of print. Here's the answer. Remember, you can always pause if you need more time to think. The answer is oral language. So motor skills would be fine motor skills, gross motor skills, but moving your body. So that's not the case here. Listening comprehension, we're not asking questions about the tongue twisters or chants or songs, so it's not about comprehension. Concepts of print is how you hold and use a book, but when you are singing, chanting, and using tongue twisters, also collaborative play, that brings in vocabulary and rhyming words and syllabication and all of those things, so definitely oral language there. Wordless texts allow beginning readers to practice oral language by A, adding their own dialogue to illustrations, B, practice letter-to-sound correspondence, C, receive instruction with the gradual release model, or D, develop phonics acquisition. Here's our answer. A, adding their own dialogue to illustrations. So wordless texts are just how it sounds. It's a text without any words. So how would they practice oral language? Well, it's they're adding their own dialogue to the illustrations of what's in the book. So in the book, there are just pictures on the pages, no text, but the student can practice oral language by adding their own dialogue. So they're looking at the picture, and if it's a picture of a little boy petting a puppy, then they can say, the little boy loves to pet his puppy. And then on the next page, if it's a little boy eating some crackers, they might say, and the little boy loves to have a snack. So they're adding their own dialogue to it. That is creating practice for oral language. Letter to sound correspondence is out because there are no letters on the page. It's wordless. Gradual release model, that is specific to the I do, you do, or I do, we do, you do model. So not what they are talking about in this question. And then phonics acquisition has to do with the written word, and this is a wordless text. So A is our answer. Which is true for oral and written language development? A, written language instruction should come first. B, phonics instruction should come before oral and written language instruction. C, oral language instruction should come first. Or D, oral and written language instruction should happen simultaneously. Here's our answer. D, oral and written language instruction should happen simultaneously. So we want to make sure that we are not having students or children completely master oral language before beginning written language, because even through elementary school, they are still developing written language and also still developing oral language. So they will happen simultaneously. We don't wait for mastery before beginning the next. So that is why D is our answer there. If you wanted to assess your 10th grade students and compare their proficiency levels across all your class periods, which type of assessments would you use? Criterion-referenced, norm-referenced, a rubric based on grade level expectations, or D, performance-based? Here's our answer. Norm-referenced. Now, this would be true for any grade level. So when you are giving an assessment where you are comparing proficiency levels across the class. So this would be true for kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth. When you are comparing proficiency across a grade level, across a class, then we are looking for what we think of it as you're looking for what is quote unquote normal, norm referenced. So this would be true for any grade level. Norm reference is the answer here. A rotation of literacy stations for beginning readers would include sight word recognition, identifying parts of speech, decodable text on instructional levels, or D, ORF assessment. Here's the answer. Sight word recognition. So when we're looking at beginning readers, we are looking at those first scholars, those very beginning students. So we're talking about kindergarten. Also, if they're beginning readers, maybe they're in first grade, but we're talking about those kindergarten, first grade students. So parts of speech would not be something that our most beginning readers would be working on independently. And we know it's independent because they're in a literacy station, so the teacher's not there with them. They would not do an assessment at a station by themselves. And then also they would not be decoding text on instructional levels if they are a beginning reader. Additionally, in a station, we would not have them working on anything at an instructional level because that would be with a teacher. If they were able to read something that would be decodable, if they're in a center, it would be an independent level, not an instructional level. So sight word recognition would be perfect for a literacy station for a very beginning reader. A teacher wants to assess the students within the daily whole group lesson to determine the whole group lesson for tomorrow. Which type of assessment should the teacher give? A, formative, B, benchmark, C, summative, or D, diagnostic? Here's our answer. A, formative. The reason is because it is going to be a whole group based on a whole group lesson, and it's not summative because it is not at the end of an entire year. It's not benchmark. It's not at the end of an entire benchmark instructional period. It's not diagnostic because you're not looking for individual deficiencies or proficiencies. It's formative. Think of it's just forming what you're going to do the next day. It's forming your instructional roadmap. So this is just based on what the teacher is going to do tomorrow. So that's why we choose A. A Criterion-Referenced assessment would test for the following: mastery within a peer group, B, the effectiveness of a reading program, C, used to identify grade level expectations, or D, involves a student performance to show proficiency. Here's our answer. B, the effectiveness of a reading program. So mastery within a peer group would be a norm reference test. Used to identify grade level expectations. That could be either benchmark or summative, depending on what you're looking for and what the purpose of the assessment is. Also, you're not Criterion-Referenced isn't looking at just a student performance. That would be diagnostic. So that is why we are left with the effectiveness of a reading program. You're looking at the criteria of what the student had to know for the assessment based on this reading program. So that's why it's B. A kindergarten teacher is about to complete a unit on author's purpose. The teacher wants to check for understanding before moving on to the next unit of study. Which assessment should be given? A, summative, B, benchmark, C, formative, or D, diagnostic? Here's our answer. B, benchmark. So this is the end of a unit. So the teacher has been instructing on certain benchmarks within this unit, and that's why benchmark is the answer. Summative would be at the end of the year. Formative would be what the teacher is just using for their next day's instruction. And diagnostic would be looking at a specific student's proficiency levels. So that is why we are left with B, benchmark. That's why benchmark is correct here.